Did we lose you there, John? You're muted.
Hang in 1 second, folks. Trying to get to the radio station here.
There you go.
Why did that disappear?
Technical difficulties.
You're listening to WKDW Radio 97.5 and KDWRadio.com, broadcasting from the Bishop West Real Estate Mobile Tower. And I have to tell you, this was the first time that I'm using my new tablet and trying to get on the radio at the same time. So I apologize. I'm actually on vacation up in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. Uh, Nice brisk breeze up here today. No shirt. Yesterday I was in shorts, even though it was about 25 degrees. I refused to participate in winter, but I just thought I'd let you know that ahead of time. I appreciate your patience in following the show. And again, this week, I have a very special guest in the house, Mr. Phil Stokes, Commissioner Phil Stokes. Brought him back on this week because this was his duly assigned schedule, believe it or not. But last week we had him on with Jill Luke, and it was because of the transition. And it was very important to let Jill Luke know how we felt about her and the transition and what value she brought as a commissioner to the city of Northport. So, with great honor, I would like to introduce you to our new city commissioner, Mr. Phil Stokes. How you doing, Phil?
Very good, John.
And things are going well with you?
I'm getting ready, really getting to be a regular on this show. That's for sure.
You certainly are. You know, you've kind of been through the gamut here a little bit, and you did the show at the very beginning, and you actually I think you've been on a couple times during the campaign.
Yep.
And it was an honor to have both of you. And I said this, and I mean this sincerely, to have both representatives who ran on the show and participate the way you both did. I feel that's a great thing to get information out equally to both parties and that we're running, and that I really have the utmost respect for both guys who sat through. I believe the barrage of questions that I asked you prior to all this, because you answered each and every one of those questions, even though they were not softball questions. What do you think?
That's true. I answered them.
You did. So, here's the beauty. What's your thoughts now? You're another weekend. I know that you've gotten versed on everything that's happening out there, and I will say that Chuck English just said congratulations, Phil Stokes. But how do you feel things are going right now?
Good. For me, look, there's always a learning curve with any new commissioner that joins. But I'm fortunate. I mean, I spent the better part of the year mirroring Jill and going to every meeting, every workshop. I really have a good feel for, in many cases, a lot of the issues. I've sat through a lot of the first readings on some of the ordinances, so I'm fairly aware. And now it's the last couple of days just been orientation, with human resources, with IT, getting ready for tomorrow night's commission meeting. So I had a briefing today, but it's back to work.
Well, one day at a time, right? You're certainly not trying to bite off more than you can chew at this point, correct?
Oh no, it's it's business as usual. That's all. It's really, it's work. It's not a part-time endeavor, that's for sure. And it's something you have to take serious. I mean, there's a lot of things going on, a lot of moving parts all the time, in city government. And if you want to know what's going on, you have to be involved. You have to read. Lots of reading.
What
Lots.
what do you feel like is the first targeted goal that you and others have at this point for the city of North?
Oh, we're still in a recovery stage from the hurricane. I mean, there's so much work still to do. As people get their lives back to normal, it's easy to forget about the rest of the people or some of the people who still haven't gotten their lives back in order. And so there are a whole lot of things that the city's dealing with still, emergency orders. The roads are back, but we're fixing water issues where we've got city buildings that are going to have to be repaired and fixed. So while that new pillar is being addressed, there's still all the other things that are going on. So it's if anything, there's just a higher level of activity than normal. But city staff and management are plugging along. So for the commissioners, they're doing their job. It's it is what it is.
What is it? What is it that you found over the first week here or so after running and getting put into office? You're kind of still in this. Can you kind of explain the fuzzy area that you're in right now?
Well, as I've said to you on previous shows, I am not a politician. I never ran for public office before. I hate politics. I really dislike it. This campaign was snarky and dirty and, quite frankly, distasteful. It's not hard to understand why people wouldn't want to get involved in running for an election for anything. But now that it's over and I've won, it's a simple matter of finally I can do what I wanted to do, which is be a public servant. That's really for anyone who runs for city commission or any other elected position. It's about service. That is what it is. So it took a few days to a week just to decompress. I mean, the 2 weeks of early voting and an election day were pretty amped up. But once the dust settled, you had to wait that week and a half for the canvassing boards to finish. And when finally, I guess it sunk in when I got was sworn in on Saturday morning. That was nice. And a lot of folks turned out for it. And then it's like, all right, now elections behind, the politics is behind. Now it's public service for the next 4 years to 8 years.
Yeah, and that says a lot for for you and the others who have run to go through I call it the gauntlet. It to me there that is the reason that a lot of people don't run for office is they get beat up every single day. They go through these things. What's it feel like to actually complete the task, go through the gauntlet, and come out of the on the other side a winner? What's it feel like?
It's satisfying. There's no doubt about it. It's there's a degree of relief to it. And but it is satisfying. I mean it's I've always played to win, but the idea here is that it winning wasn't the ultimate goal. It was to provide the opportunity to serve the city and serve the citizens, which is why I got in the race to begin with. And unfortunately, a lot of the time spent during this race just revolved around attacks, personal attacks, lies, misrepresentations, all of which distracted from the issues of the city and the ideas that candidates are supposed to have for what they can bring to the party and how they can help serve. And, all that, quite frankly, like I said, is was awfully distasteful. I'm delighted it's over,
Oh,
and really just want to focus on, making my contribution, trying to work with my fellow commissioners and city management to move the city forward.
I've
That's
got a question from Mr. Chuck English. He said, Commissioner Stokes, what did your position on reducing a level of service within our parks as it relates to economic development? And I think it's what is your position?
on reducing the level of service within our parks. I don't think we're reducing a level of service within our parks at all.
Well, let me ask you a different way, because maybe I can help him a little bit. If we're looking at turning our parks into some sort of an economic development, which could be the case for, let's take War Mill Springs. Do you see a reduction somewhere else in the park system to compensate for War Mill Springs at that point?
Not at all. I don't really. I mean, I guess War Mineral Springs is a park to a degree, but we have 28 parks and rec areas in the city. Um, I think it's more an enhancement when you look at take Mineral Springs. There is a core group of folks that have frequented it and visitors to the springs, but with 60 acres there, it would be nice if that entire property afforded a lot more park and rec related activities and interests that would attract a lot of our residents within the city who might want to then come and enjoy some of the new things that this park will offer. Um, I don't think there's any intention to cut the benefits or the services of any of our parks. I think, we're still, after digesting what the county dropped on us, we need to run them as efficiently as we can. We need to maintain them properly, make them as Florida friendly as possible, so we save, the taxpayers some dollars on maintenance and upkeep. But beyond that, the parks and recs are part of our quality of life pillar. It's important. That's one of the reasons why people love living in Northport.
And I'm going to agree with that, because we don't have the water, other than Warm Mill Springs. We really don't have water frontage, so we're not a waterfront community. We don't have the sunsets, although we have some pretty terrific sunset spots in Northport. They're just not directly over water a lot of times. Some of our little ponds and different areas like that do give us some really high quality sunset positions. One of my favorites is actually next to Pink Tequila, over off of Toledo Blade. If you look across the lake and you watch sunset happen there, it's pretty phenomenal. Some of these areas that have some really unique features to them. And I'm going to put this up because I think he's got another follow up. He says, what they're doing is reducing the service parts by changing them into economic development drivers. You may want to get into in the UDC. Can you make? I know that Chuck typing quick on his response there. So, is that something that you would have to look into, because you are so new? Maybe the next cycle through, you could maybe feel more comfortable answering that question as you get into it.
I really don't think that the part. I don't agree that there's a reduction of services in the park areas. I think there's an attempt to look at these properties and where they can be enhanced and developed properly. They should be. I mean, there's areas. I mean, Dallas White Park's a good example. It's probably the most used and enjoyed park we have. Yet I think there are probably areas that we can enhance. I don't think the parks themselves are a pivotal portion of the economic development plan for the city. There are 9, activity centers that encompass a whole heck of a lot more than just the parks and rec areas. But I think there are, certainly areas within the parks. I mean, take I mean, I think of all kinds of things we can do to enhance the parks. I mean, we need pickleball courts that we don't have in the city. We need more soccer fields for the kids. Uh, After being sworn in, I went over to the park with Jill Luke, and she introduced me around to a lot of the coaches and the folks that help our soccer players, our youngsters in the city. I mean, we have almost 600-700 soccer players in our city. We're bulging at the seams. We need more space. So I don't really see that. I don't see the tie-in between reducing parks and rec services versus economic development at all. I mean, I don't know where he's going with that.
Well, and he put it out there. It's sort of like an economic driver to include housing. So I'm assuming what he's talking about now is building some housing structure above, like a second story, which would help reduce some housing issues, but also put like a workforce housing in position. Chuck, if I'm correct, please let me know.
So 104 square miles, I would think that, there are a number of development projects for higher density, and I wouldn't call it affordable necessarily housing. It's not certainly low end housing, but
I
uh,
use the word for workforce.
workforce housing, and there's projects out there for that. Every project, a commission will look at on its own. I mean, there's nothing that's on the docket that talks about building, affordable housing in a specific park that I'm aware of as yet. Nothing that I've seen come across. I mean, there's certainly development plans out along 75 and Toledo Blade, and there's some projects in and around the city for adding, some apartment like or condo like projects. Those come up before the commission, but you know, uh, as far as converting areas of our parks over to residential, you know, I suppose if there's a project out there, it's yet to come before the commission that I've seen. And I've, like I say, been going to every commissioners meeting and workshop for the better part of a year. So
What do you see as the right now? I mean, if you could wave the magic wand and you could get um, three projects going, and when I say going, they could be things that are voted on and passed. But what are three projects right now that just need to get that first step
yeah,
in moving forward?
easy question. Price Boulevard, first and foremost. Second, Mineral Springs is coming along. Third, to really go to work on some of our waterways, um, some of our water infrastructure areas that need improving and upgrading. And then I'd love to see thoughts, which is a long-term project, is an additional access road somewhere. I mean, as our population continues to grow, we're going to need to really look out a little, you know, not just 5 years, but 10, 15, 20 years, and figure what we're going to do in order to really help people, you know, traverse our city, because between Price and 75 and 41, it's only so many ways to get around. And that's something that I think, city government commission is going to have to start thinking about planning for. And that's going to involve the county. It's going to involve the state. That's not something that's going to just be local.
Well, and we already know that Warm Mill Springs has some upgrades coming its way. We already know that the Price Boulevard has been approved through the vote,
Yep.
and that project should be hopefully starting in the near future. I think that's going to be more exciting when we actually see uh, progress move on it. It's
So,
the chatter that's been out there forever seems to be draining people of the need to hear. I think we're starting the project. There really there's a lot of people in our town that want that project started yesterday or 6 months or 8 years ago.
you know,
And really, we've been behind the eight ball on Price Boulevard for a long time. And I don't know whether it was because people were scared to pull the trigger on it, didn't want to hurt people's feelings on it, don't care at this point. I know that it's done. A boulevard is 4 lanes. And folks, if you don't believe me, look it up. Second off, if you live on any of those roads, they were called boulevards before you moved on them. Uh, Whether you knew it or not, you lived on, and as soon as you got your mail or even signed the paperwork for the home, you had to start asking yourself a question. Everything else is street and avenue in Northport. This is a boulevard. Boulevards are usually 4 lanes. I very rarely do you see a boulevard with 3 lanes or 2 lanes, unless they're in the infancy stage. Um, our boulevards down here are used for really access to 75, and we usually use those for very very particular reasons, and those are escape routes for hurricanes and other disasters that may be looming in our area. We really need the infrastructure to grow in our town, don't we?
That we do. That we do. Look, we're the ninth fastest growing city in the United States of America. People are going to keep coming here. It's affordable. It's a beautiful area. The weather's great. And, we're going to have to adapt that. We've discussed this on previous shows. And, you know, eh, we're going to have to add the retail, commercial, industrial business in order for us to keep the pressure off residential taxpayers. The cost of providing the basic services that new folks are going to require has to be paid by somebody. It needs to be borne in a balanced fashion. And that's something that everybody in city government as well as the commission is focused on. I think that, is something that's a reality. We're all going to pull in this in the same direction. Plus, we need to, as we do this, we need to work hard to bring better paying jobs, more upscale jobs. It pains me to see so many people leave this city every single day when they get up and go to work. It'd be nice to be able to not just live here, but to work here and to play here as well. And, that's a big reason why I ran in the first place and got involved, because I see that as a real opportunity. It's the next 5 years to 10 years that's going to set a course for the next 50 years in this city. And it's something we truly, truly need to do. It just needs to be done in a balanced, smart way, a strategic way. Um, you know, all through my campaign and even prior to, people always talk about developers as being the bad guys. And as I've said, there are good and bad in every industry and every occupation. Welland Park, a perfect example of a responsible developer who collaborated with the city to build a beautiful area that's going to generate huge impact fees and taxes for the city, helping to keep taxes more affordable for residential people, as well as to bring a host of activities and jobs to the area. We need to do similar type things, not duplicates, but similar, all through the city in strategic areas, so that people can stay close to home, get good jobs, and generate the kind of tax revenues we need. But at the same time, keeping the character and the quality of life that's made Northport attractive.
I'm going to ask you this because the last several months have proven out to be um, something of, I think, a learning disaster.
Yep.
And I say that with everyone's truest um, benefits in mind. I feel bad for everyone who has been in the flood, who has been affected by this. But if we don't step up and do the right things with Price Boulevard now, these things are going to happen again. And I'm going to ask this because I know that we've already approved a lot of things with Price Boulevard, but do you think that we're looking at Price Boulevard today differently prior to Ian? Are they going to analyze it, break it down better, and be smarter about what they're doing?
Not just with price, but with all the development and infrastructure improvements that take place. You know, Ian was a teaching experience in a lot of senses. There, all the decisions that city government makes with regard to improving infrastructure we have, new types of economic development, are going to require paying attention to disaster issues. You know, what about flooding? How, you know, I mean, we've got a hospital going in. That project alone, consideration's going to have to be given. That's an area of our city that we had flood problems with. And all those projects, the city's already working on a, a, a protocol that ensures that concern for disaster type issues are factored in as plans are made, as decisions are made, as approvals are given. As we overhaul the ULDC, same thing. I mean, you know, I don't think that it was a gigantic surprise, but I think Ian helped provide a real wake up call. And I think that, you know, city government is fully aware of the fact that, you know, storms are going to continue to happen. Our city sits very low. We have problems with flooding. We're going to continue to have problems with flooding. And everything we do, we have to bear that in mind as we make our decisions. You know, it's going to be an integral part of every strategy we do. You know, there's no big surprise there. And city government is not oblivious to it. They're already working on it.
Can you do me a favor and over your next several months, because I know it's going to be several months now, unless we get a surprise visit from you, and you never know.
You never know.
Because if I tend to have people cancel at the last minute, I reach out to the commissioners to see if they want time. But I want you to keep this in your the back of your head as you're going through this process. Can you work on giving us solid updates on exactly what Price Boulevard is going to be looked at and how? I'm just a concerned citizen, not a host at this point, and my biggest concern is that we have seen what happens with a flood. We know we are not prepared for that. We know that. That was a 500-year flood. I've been here for 24. Chuck has been here for a long time, and I know he talks about 92 and the fact that we didn't learn our lesson in 92. Well, I hate to say, but that's 2 check marks within 5 years. So if we're talking about, hey, it was a 500-year storm, it's never going to happen. Well, why are they talking about 92? Because that wasn't 500 years ago. It feels like it sometimes. You know, I was 28 back then. Wow, a little older now, maybe a little wiser. Some would say no, but you know, that's my joke about myself for the day. But what do you think? And I don't want to start out that way. I'm just going to say, will you just be able to come back on several months from now when you are a guest back on the show and kind of reiterate some of the upgrades that they're going to do to, I call them water underflows, because they are bridges, but they're really not designed the same way. They're really designed a different way. And I hope that they're going to work on some controls there that they I think need to have, sort of like the structure behind Winn-Dixie, where they can shut things down and slow it down. And there's just some safety features I think they need to have in place. But go ahead.
No, I absolutely. You know, over the next, as these projects, Price and others, unfold, I think that people will see the thought process that goes into these into these projects, and yeah, I'm more than happy to, as I learn what we're doing, to try to mitigate the potential future problems we'll have. Let's face it, to say that a what was virtually a Cat 5 hurricane is or isn't going to happen again, nobody knows. I mean, storms seem to be more intense and more frequent over the past 20 years. And, if we face another Cat 5 hurricane, let's face it, it's catastrophic. You can do all you can try to do, you can do everything you want. But the reality is, when you have that kind of unbelievable, natural disaster, it's hard to say whether anything you possibly do to prepare is going to help you avoid catastrophe. I think, you do the best you can, use good thought processes you learn from the past, and as you build back and as you build new, build smart. But the reality is that we live in an area that is susceptible to this kind of adverse weather, and we have to cope with it, we have to deal with it, we have to plan for it. Certainly, that's a big part of what city government is focusing on right now.
And so I want to stick here for a second because I want to do a little comparison to where I'm going with this whole thing, and draw you a vision of what my mind is at, and I think others are at too. Is that we watch River Road over the years go from one lane, then the county and the state, really the state kind of combined with the counties, and they opened up that intersection. And when that intersection at 41 went in, I haven't run into anyone yet that went, what the heck kind of road are they going to put in there that is going to accommodate that intersection that's there? Because that was preemptive building at its finest, because that area is going to blow up, is currently blowing up, and it will support that intersection. That's the mindset that I think we have to have on our infrastructure. We have to build it out with the knowledge that we've earned now. They built that out forecasting. When are we going to get better at forecasting?
I'd say we're in the process of doing so. I'd say, you got a city government who certainly is well aware of the issues, and, is doing exactly what you say. It is not a wave a magic wand. It is not, oh, let's pass a handful of ordinances and magically problem solved. Okay, we have you know a, 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 a challenge that's going to take 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Let's face it. It is not something that you can just, okay, let's do this, let's do that. We're a highly dense area in some of these areas that had the worst damage. We have hundreds upon hundreds and upon hundreds of homes. People live there. You can't just turn everybody's life inside out. Every one of these decisions to improve infrastructure, to make changes, are going to affect everybody's lives. So it's a process, a long process, careful process. I don't think anybody should think that city government is oblivious to this. This is exactly what city government is doing in the creation of the seventh pillar, which is to build back from this storm. So, you know.
And do you see that question by Mr. English on or his statement there? The tip of the funnel of 195 miles floodplain water. That's the foundation of a existence.
Okay.
That's exactly what I was thinking after I saw it. The Chuck, can you explain that just a little bit better? I know it's more of a statement. He actually is working from his phone, and I think he's having trouble getting his phone to cooperate. I do that myself, so I have to kind of laugh at. I read it quickly, trying to get it up here because I've got a reduced screen today. But with everything that you know now, going into when's your first day in the office? Let's go there.
It was today.
When was it?
Today.
What's that? Today.
Today.
Today's your first day in office. And your first day in office, I want to know what it was like to walk into your office and what has staff done to assist your comfort level.
Well, city staff has an entire orientation program that they've developed for new commissioners that come in. I'm actually, I think, the first commissioner that's going through this enhanced orientation. I spent the morning with HR, Human Resources, then with IT. Then I had a briefing for tomorrow's commission meeting. I'll be meeting with legal. I am set up for training sessions on ethics, on government services, on being a newly elected official. Basically, it is a fairly sophisticated orientation. It's helpful, again, that I have a good feel for the flow because, and again, I'm as well versed as any newbie on the issues that are coming before the commission. I can't even imagine what it'd be like for somebody who's never attended these meetings or isn't aware of what's going on in the city and doesn't see the protocol and the flow. So really, staff is incredible. I mean, even your scheduling of all your
Was that the bat phone calling?
that's the bad phone. But I mean, literally, all my scheduling of appointments and trainings are all handled by admin people, by executive Jerome's executive assistants, and I mean, they just take you through the program. It's really it's impressive. It is impressive to see the level of professionalism. Then within the next couple of weeks, right after we get over through the holidays, I'll get a city tour of all the city buildings, all the city departments. That will be invaluable for me. So it's really, it's not just a willy-nilly kind of process. They have a formal, detailed orientation program so that you get brought up to speed as quickly as possible. And plus, you get, I mean, it. I have to say, it is impressive. It's nice to know and nice to see the level of professionalism in our city government that I don't think most people have any appreciation for. I really don't. People always pick at the things they choose to criticize and complain about and have no real foundational understanding as to how incredible this group of people are that run our city, really.
Well, and I want to go here for a second because you just said something. A lot of people want to pick and over things they don't know, and it's the truth of the matter is we do try really hard to get information out, but information to the citizens of our community is one of the hardest things to get out. Um, just this program that you're going through now, that wasn't just thrown together. That wasn't just a hey, let's do it. That's some heavy coordination that's going on and planning for I would think an elevated entry into our government. Which if go ahead.
It's even, I mean, that's just one little piece of the pie. Take in just the short couple of days, I mean, as I prepared for, even before I was sworn in, I spent quite a number of hours last week looking over the agenda for Tuesday's meeting. And any citizen can go on that agenda within the 5 days or so that it's posted, click on the documents that are attached to that particular motion or ordinance, and they can see the city staff's report. They can see the level of detail and depth they go through as they analyze any issue that's coming before the commission. They make their recommendations. They prepare and present their documentation to support their positions. All the supporting documentation and reports are included. And it's a process. It took me 5 hours to basically run myself through Tuesday's agenda to prepare for my briefing today. And any citizen in our city can do that if they're so inclined. Now, let's face it, people are raising their families, going to work, doing other things. I mean, I happen to have a passion for it. That's why I ran for commission. Most people could care less. Just show me the results. Fix my roads, cut my traffic, pick up my garbage. Okay, I don't want to deal with all this stuff. I just want it done for me. But the information's there. And Jason and our communications department do an incredible job, and they are attempting to do as much as they possibly can to better communicate and improve communications. I think all through the storm and post-storm, you saw a lot of that. But I've always said you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And the reality is, for those people that take an active interest, the information's there. Okay, people can become very, very knowledgeable on how our government works, how decisions are made, how much work really goes into these decisions. It's not a group of 5 commissioners sitting down on the dais, having something presented to them, chatting a little about it, and making a decision. There is countless hours and effort and studies and analysis that go into every single decision that's made. And people don't necessarily fully appreciate that, but that's what happens. And all this stuff's available. You can learn anything and everything you want to learn. You want to learn where all our infrastructure dollars go, where the surtax dollars go. You can go on our website right now and you can dig out project by project by project. You can read up on everything. You can see where every dollar is being spent. Well, budget, same thing. All you got to be willing to do is do the deep dive for it. Because if we had to, I mean, again, you know, it's a question of how much information you want to provide people. When there are things that affect large groups of people, like a storm like this, very important that city government communicate on a regular basis so people see what we're doing to dig out and to build back. But the everyday business of governance is something that people have to have a genuine interest in order to do the deep dive, to learn and understand. But it's there. And but I agree with you. You can probably never communicate too much or help people too much. But it's the same thing we say with voting, right?
Big
It's
time.
not just your right, but it's your responsibility. But how many people vote?
Right. And you know, it is one of our hardest things to do. And I know that we at the radio station we're desperately trying to get the word out that we do have on air time to get more information. And this is really Chuck English, multiple others though, watch this show. We're into a holiday season now, and it's just a little different this time of year with people traveling and they're with family. I'm actually in Ohio. I'm up here right now until Thursday. I fly out Thursday evening. I'm up here with my granddaughters, Ellie and Evie T, and they're excited that we're here. I just got here yesterday, believe it or not. And Ellie was all upset today because she thought I was leaving and I was coming to do the radio show. So she's all upset because Big John was leaving and going to leave town. But, you know, as much as I have the love of coming up and seeing my granddaughters, I have that much love for where I live. And I truly mean that. I hope that we can start and we have. I don't want to act like I'm not grateful for the leadership we've had in place. They've done a phenomenal job. Anybody who goes into that position, uh, I think they have to have their hard hat ready, and maybe their cape at times, to be Superman or Superwoman and take care of business. But when it comes right down to it, the commissioners, you've gotten to know them all extremely well, just like I have.
Yeah.
I've gotten to know you more, uh, now that we've been on the show multiple times and had our talks after the show. Uh, we really never prepare for the show. People do know that about it, but a couple things I will point out to the citizens of Northport about you is that every time I've ever asked a question, you've always answered it. They may not have been softball questions. Barbara Langdon is a huge fan and truthfully, a huge supporter in the tougher questions now, because she kind of does the same thing Pete does. Alice White's doing a phenomenal job answering questions. Where do you see yourself fitting in with these commissioners? Do you find yourself being able to take a hold of conversations, or where do you feel like you're at right now?
You know, each of us are a part of the process. It's truly a it's truly a collaboration of commission, of management, of staff on all this stuff. The my four fellow commissioners all bring a perspective to city decisions. I bring a perspective with my background, with my career experience, and the common denominator is every one of the five of us, and I, as you, have gotten to know them. In some cases, you know them even better than I do, but I will say this group of five of us are singularly focused on doing what's in the best interest of the city. Not one of the five of us will put our egos ahead of what's in the best interest of this city. And that doesn't mean we don't disagree on certain things, or that we won't, or that we have our opinions on different things. I think each one of us respects each other and appreciates that not everything's going to be 5-0, not everything's going to be exactly the same, and it shouldn't be. It takes perspective in order to come up with the best kind of direction for city management. And I really have been welcomed by my four fellow commissioners. Um, I think that they appreciate that I spent as much time as I did attending, not just to come to speak for 3 minutes to give people a sense of self-relevance, or to come and complain about this, that, or the other, but to sit from the beginning to the end of every meeting, every workshop, so I could try to understand the process that city government goes through to make decisions. And I hope that they understand that um, I see myself as truly a public servant like they do, and that together we work together to help direct and support city management, because they're the people that actually get up every day and get the job done with our direction, with our oversight, with our authorizations. But it's a true collaborative effort, and there needs to be a level of humility and respect for each other. Anybody who's got personal agendas really doesn't have a place. Okay, and this is just a truly great group of people, and I can't say it enough. I think that the city's going to see, as much as it's seen some wonderful change in the last handful of years, it's going to see that much more over the next 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. We truly are in a incredibly transitional period of our city. And we're fortunate, I think, myself included, to be part of a group of people who really share a vision for where the city needs to go to maintain our character and the quality of life that we've come to enjoy, and at the same time prepare ourselves for the growth and some of the challenges the city's going to face. So it's a long about way to answer your question.
And that's all right. We've only got a couple minutes left, but the beauty in building a city, and that's truly what we do daily in our town, is we try to build our city, because most of it is unfinished business. We are facing, in these economic times, different strategies on filling our business centers to create that revenue that you tout that we need. And you're not alone when you tout it. You're really not alone at all. We need to figure out the future of our town, and it needs to be wrapped around the future of the country, and what the country is now seeing as a change in business philosophy. That has been amped up due to COVID, the senior class being sheltered from the computer industry for a long time, really hesitant on being part of that. And now, because of COVID, finding out that in order to get food and medicine and everything else, they had to kind of rely on it, and find a way through that window. And I think a lot of people have. They've done a great job. And our stores, even our local chains, in our area, the Publix of the world, the Aldis of the world, they have now order and deliver, and more senior class are taking advantage of that instead of going to stores. There's still that group of people out there that want to go, but it does change our business centers. I've got maybe 1 minute left. What do you think we're going to have to do to enhance businesses to come here? And I've got about 30 seconds.
Well, obviously, making the ability for new business to find it easy to work with city government, that's first. The ULDC overhaul will go a long way towards that. But attracting business, it's a combination of efforts. It's a strong economic development department within our city. It's a good collaboration with the county EDC and other surrounding counties. It involves really marketing our city to businesses based on a strategy of what we're looking to bring here. It's why does Amazon move to one place over another? There has to be a strategy and then a plan to go out after that business.
I've got to get off the here, but I'm going to leave you there, because you know what? That's going to be a building block for our next show.
There you go.
All right. This is John Rawlings with WKDW Radio saying thank you very much for listening in, and really congratulations to Phil Stokes.
Thank you very much.
All right, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
All right.